Folks, welcome back. This is the truth about the word toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is a hot topic. It's been used quite a bit now over the past couple of years. People have been using examples like Andrew Tate, Tommy Robinson. We've even had politicians stand up in Parliament and use the word toxic masculinity. And I don't believe it's a legitimate term. I don't think it should be used. And I'll tell you why in this episode. I think it needs scrapped. I think it's a label. And I think it promotes men to fear their masculinity when they shouldn't. So in my opinion, and this is just my opinion before everyone gets their knickers in a twist, there's two reasons why what we call masculinity, toxic masculinity, comes out in men. So there's two reasons why toxic masculinity comes out in men. Number one is men who fear their feminine energy and they live permanently in their masculine drive. So that could be because of environment, could have been upbringing, could have been they just didn't feel safe to express their feminine energy in the environment that they were in, or the relationships that they held, maybe at home, maybe in school, maybe in the streets, and therefore they live in that masculine drive because to be in that feminine energy is unsafe, it's uncomfortable, and it makes them feel vulnerable to the dangers that they're surrounded by. The second thing is men who have been labelled, and this is important. It's men who have been labelled as toxic masculine, and they eventually live up to that, because what else are they going to do? As I said in the previous episode, or an episode that may come out soon, I don't know if it's going to go out before this or the next one, I said about labels. When labels are given, two things happen. Either people live up to it or spend the rest of their life trying to prove people wrong for giving them that label. So that is the two reasons why toxic masculinity is called what it's called. It's because it's men who fear their feminine energy and they live in their masculine drive because they don't feel safe there, or it's men who have been labelled that way and live up to it. And I want to talk more about that. So I think men who are stuck in their masculine drive, the reason why they fear their feminine is because maybe they've been hurt before in the past. Maybe a relationship has went wrong. Maybe they've been cheated on. Maybe they've been let down or betrayed by a friend. Maybe they were abused in the home and told not to cry, not to talk about their feelings, not talk about their emotions, which is most men. And what happens is then they get stuck in their masculine energy. So what is, if you don't know, what is masculine energy and what is feminine energy? So the feminine energy is more like openness, creativity, emotional sort of intelligence, like, you know, showing your feelings and letting feelings actually take their course rather than suppressing them and hiding them. Whereas your masculine energy is more direct, it's more action led, it's more driven, it's more get shit done, it's more protection, providing, it's like hunter, you know, you're the hunter, and that is your masculine energy. And it's a very useful thing. If you didn't have masculine energy, nothing would get done. You know, it would just be all in a circle singing Kumbaya, and it would be, you know, no shit would get done. There wouldn't be buildings built, there wouldn't be, you know, firemen, there wouldn't be policemen, there wouldn't be first responders, there wouldn't be people who go out into the community and take action and coach, there wouldn't be coaches. And that is why a lot of men are in the coaching roles and not in the teaching roles. So there's a big lack of men in psychiatry. There's not a lot of male therapists. There's not a lot of male teachers. And I'll tell you why I think that is. I think that is because it is a natural masculine thing to be a coach, to be a leader, to be someone who is proactively doing things and leading with action rather than teaching, dictating, or listening and actually being able to sit with someone without giving them advice or direction is a feminine thing if it's more your feminine energy, and it's very useful too, and I think a lot of men should start to develop that, but I think they should develop it to use it in their coaching role and in their role of being a leader within a group, or a leader within like a youth organization, or within coaching men, or in the wellness space. So I think a good balance between the both is perfect. It's what you're looking for. You're looking for balance in the both. There's a time to be masculine and there's time to tap into that feminine. And as I say before, like the reason why a lot of men fear their masculine, fear their feminine, is because they were never made to feel safe enough to do that, because they're afraid of the response that they'll get. They're afraid of what might happen to them if they tap into that. If they're caught crying, if they're caught listening instead of giving direction, they need to feel like they have control, and control is a masculine thing, and to let go of control is almost a feminine energy. So that is why a lot of men struggle to not give advice and not give direction when someone is actually venting to them or giving them their, and I'm brutal for this sometimes as well, we all are, it's just reminding yourself and being aware of it. When someone's actually telling you how to feel, you're like always giving them advice, you're always giving them, you should do this, you should do that, instead of just listening to them and taking in what they're saying and allowing them to vent and sitting with them in the shit. You know, a good friend to me as well is someone who won't, tell you what to do or give you advice or be too direct with you whenever you're going through the shit. They'll probably just sit with you and just let you know that it's okay and that you're safe and it's okay to feel that way. Of course, you can't do that for too long, because then you'll start to develop sort of victim mentality and you're letting the problem take power over you. But it's alright to do that for a while, in my opinion. I think it's okay. You need to feel that. As I said before, if you don't feel your feelings, they'll come out in other ways that are more dangerous and destructive, because it was described to me, as I've said in another episode, when someone's taking a fit, you're not supposed to stop them from taking a fit, because you do more damage to them than good. So when someone has epilepsy and they take a fit, you can't restrain them, because you actually do more damage to them than you do good. It's the same with your emotions and your feelings. If you restrict them and you try to withhold them, you will do more damage than good. But it's okay to sit with that for a while and allow yourself to feel that, and a good friend will sit with you while that's happening. And a lot of men struggle with that, because they're constantly trying to control things, they're constantly trying to give direction, they're constantly trying to be the dominant one, the one with all the answers, and sometimes you can't be. It's impossible. You can't do that all the time. And here is the danger of living in your masculine energy. It is very exhausting. You will burn out eventually. One day you'll just burn out. You'll feel like flatlined. You'll struggle to wind down. You'll struggle to sleep. You'll struggle to feel at peace. You'll actually struggle to take a day off. When you're off work, if you're someone who is off work and is always thinking about work or what to do in work, what you need to do next, that is because you're stuck in your masculine energy. You're afraid of your feminine energy, because you feel like if you tap into that, you will lose work, you'll lose your job, you'll lose money, whatever, and that is a scary place to be. And if you live in that for too long, you can develop toxic masculine traits, or whatever they want to call it. I don't really believe in that, but you'll just live in your masculine, and it may leak out in self-destructive ways or outward destructive ways. And self-destructive ways is you start to shut down, you start to get health problems, you start to feel stressed, get headaches, whatever, and you start to actually ruin things that are happening for you, like relationships, like jobs, careers. You start to do things that are purposely destroying that career or that relationship that you have, because you're stuck in that masculine energy and you don't know how to feel what you're feeling. You don't know how to actually sit back and just have faith that it's going to work out, or feel what you want to feel. And when you're stuck in that state, it can become destructive in either an inward way, where you start to do that, or an outward way, where you actually start to resent people, you start to hate people, you start to give out hate, you start to really fucking, when I post stuff about redefining the alpha, you never get women doing this as well. Well, I've had one, but you never get, it's mostly men that would comment nasty things or toxic things, slabbering about the name, talking shit about the name, or laughing, reacting to the video whatever. And that is because they may, I don't know them personally, but I'm going to take a wild guess, they may be someone who is stuck in their masculine state and fears their feminine and thinks that, you know, they have all the answers, that they are the dominant one, that they know everything, or they're resentful and they hate everyone else that may be doing something that they want to do, and I may trigger something in them that is an insecurity, if that makes sense. So that is the danger of being stuck in that masculine energy. The feminine energy is more about like awareness, connection, repair, and emotion. And men don't really like that. Men just like direction, action, control, and structure. Right? Structure is a big one. Structure. I love structure. I need structure in my life. Structure is so important. But with men, it can become too rigid to the point where their structure is their priority over, say, things need done, things come up during the day, and anything that disrupts that structure is mentally crippling for them, because they don't know how to cope with that. Like, something ruins their structure, they freak out, and it starts to really affect them, and they get angry and they get destructive and they start to ruin things, and it's, I've been in that place, and it's not a nice place to be. I used to be like that all the time. Still sometimes it happens, but you need to learn the flexibility with structure is the best way to be. You know how to navigate when situations happen. With having structure in your day is so important, but know how to navigate when that structure is interrupted. You know, there's a substitute, there's something else you can do, you know, a grounding tool, maybe something to help regulate you a wee bit, whatever it may be. And it's so dangerous, you know, living in that masculine energy. I grew up in a very dangerous place. You know, I love where I'm from. I grew up happy, but there was a lot of crime, there was a lot of, you know, shit going on in my estate when I was growing up, and in school, etc. It was pretty tough. I never wanted to be an outcast of the group that I felt safe in, which was the group that were, you know, fit or could fight or whatever. You know, you wanted to be part of that, and in order to be part of that, you needed to be stuck in your masculine energy, showing emotions and being, you know, feminine in any way, shape or form. In your feminine energy was an unsafe place to be, and you didn't see them as doing that, so you didn't do it yourself because you wanted to fit in, and that sticks with you right through to your adulthood. And it's not about blaming that, it's about understanding that so that you can change it. So the thing is men fear that softness, because softness was punished. When you were soft, you were punished, right? And I don't agree that you should be too soft. I think you should have some kind of masculine sort of drive about you, a bit of toughness about you, but to a degree there has to be a sense of softness and vulnerability, that you're able to show emotion and do it without, you know, being destructive or overly oversharing or over exaggerating the situation that you're in, you know, from a place of competency and a place of peace and regulation. So the thing is about the masculine drive is when you're stuck in that, it's just so hard to switch off. So hard to switch off. And I struggle with this even to this day. Being stuck in that is a tough place to be. And you try to control everything instead of communicating. So even with partners and stuff in the past, and even partner now, you know, I try to control the situation rather than communicate, and try to resolve things through communication and understanding where that person is coming from. I try to control the situation to suit my narrative or to suit my way of doing things, because that is just a masculine thing. You know, it's your masculine energy kicking in. You're trying to control that situation instead of communicating and understanding, and then coming to a resolution that is balanced and suits not just yourself, but is also helping the people around you that you love or you care about. And when you're stuck in your masculine energy, vulnerability, like feeling hurt, feeling sad, feeling betrayed, or feeling like you don't trust someone, is replaced by anger. So instead of showing that, you get angry. And I have done this. I am prone to panic attacks. I took panic attacks since I was a kid, and they can be quite bad. And one repetitive thing that happens to me before a panic attack is I get very angry. And when I get very angry, it's because I'm afraid of taking that panic attack, because when I was a kid I used to hate it. I used to hate the fact that I took panic attacks, because I felt like people would judge me for it, or I wouldn't, you know, it was unsafe. Felt like I would be called a fucking weirdo, a loser, you know, a bitch, a girl, a big woman, you know what I mean? So it was dangerous for me to do that in front of people, so I hid it and I held it in for so long. And now when it happens, I get so angry beforehand. Like, I'll snap, I'll say things I don't mean, I'll just be a nasty person to be around, and then I'll start crying. And that's only recently, that's the past few years, I started having that cry uncontrollably, because I need to let that out. Because if I don't let that out, I'll spend the whole day being angry and reactive, and I'll go for a walk and I'll find it hard to breathe. My heart rate's through the roof. So that is me allowing my feminine to come through by crying and letting that emotion to pass through, because I feel like I have permission to do that now. I feel safe to do that, and I don't fear the consequences of doing it, whereas beforehand I did, and I was stuck in my masculine energy, and that place was so hard to be in because it was filled with resentment and anger and hate towards the world. I blamed everyone and everything for the way I was, and it's just not nice. And I believe that's where toxic masculinity can come from. But one thing before I sort of leave you all is the label of toxic masculinity. When you label a child as angry, difficult, disruptive, or a problem child, or a toxic masculine, whatever the fuck you want to say, when you label them as that, what do you expect them to live up to? What do you expect to come out of that? And I want you, like, I'm not going to tell you, you know, what I think you should expect. I want you to actually tell me what you think you expect to come out of calling someone, or saying that someone has toxic masculinity. Do you understand what masculine energy is? Do you understand what the term means? Do you understand what that person, where that person is coming from? Or do you understand that labeling that person is going to further excel that? You know, there's this quote that says, like, once you've got angry, you've lost an argument. You know, only a fool gets angry during an argument and loses his shit. And I believe in this instance, where you've got the group that you want to call toxic masculine and the group that label them, both of them are like that. Both of them are angry, both of them are resentful, both of them are constantly at each other, and then who really wins that argument? I think we need, as a society, to have more understanding of these things and more compassion for these things, but also understand that if you're going to label someone at that age with a label, they will either live up to it or they'll spend the rest of their life trying to prove you wrong. So the term toxic masculinity, it needs to go. I'm sorry. Let me know what you think of it. Let me know your thoughts on it. I'm open to being criticised. I'm open to being wrong. But, you know, I just think that this label of toxic masculinity is misunderstood as men who are carrying pain and don't know how to express it. And I think further labeling them and putting them down is only going to make that worse. So let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next episode, folks. Thanks very much.